What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got another video for you guys. Fantasy matchup number 87. Mike Mccallum versus Bernard Hopkins. Overall, very interesting fight. I'm going to make this at, I'm going to say, I'll go with middleweight. I'm going to put this at middleweight. Mccallum versus Hopkins. For those who don't know, Mike Mccallum is a former light middleweight, and light heavyweight champion. Pretty much faced some pretty good opposition in his career. Roy Jones Jr., Sumbu Kalambe was pretty good overall fighter. Had a trilogy with James Toney. Overall good fighter. Honestly, it's kind of hard to for me to kind of analyze his style. He did a lot of bobbing and weaving, and and he would go to the body and dig in. They call him the body snatcher, and he would dig in to the body with very hard shots. Will find openings to the body, get the hook, the hooks he had to the body were very fierce, and not only that though he could, and defensively, he was very elusive up top, a lot of upper body movement. He slapped down a lot of jabs with his gloves, a lot of straight punches with his gloves, and found a way to, get to the body after slapping, kind of just slapping the punches down. But I always kind of considered him to be a counter puncher. He just because, he moved and looked for openings, similar to what most counter punchers do. And you should call me crazy for saying that, but even though he didn't have kind of a counter punching stance, he did, look for opportunities to counter and look for opportunities to go to the body. So it's kind of a counter-punching type style, looking for openings. Bernard Hopkins also is a counter-puncher. Former middleweight champion, of course, won every single belt that there was at middleweight. Of course, Bernard Hopkins, hands down, I think is, in my eyes, I think he's one of the best middleweights of all time, and that's just my personal opinion. He does a good job of dissecting his opponents and staying in close fights. Over the last few years, I haven't seen Bernard Hopkins since he hit his stride in a fight where he's losing by a whole lot, by a huge margin. He's always pretty much just stayed. He's always stayed there in the fights, and it's something that you gotta appreciate about Hopkins. He stays there in the fights. He does fight the best. He tries to fight the best, and at 46 years old now, or almost 47. Well, how old? No, he's 40, almost 46. At about 46 years old, time, time is about to run out, and you gotta appreciate it, man. That's at that age, and he's still fighting, and basically won and continued fighting at middleweight until he was 39 years old. So you gotta appreciate that. Actually, I believe he was 40 years old. 40 years old when he ended his career as a middleweight and moved up to light heavyweight. But overall, this is a very tricky matchup. Because with counterpunchers, there's a difference between counterpunching styles, especially in this matchup. Counterpunchers do not always fight the same, of course. Like I mentioned with Mccallum's style was not, stand back and wait and look for openings. If he had to be aggressive, he'd be aggressive. He'd evade the shots and then look for his opening, with either the right or the left hand. Bernard Hopkins, he does a lot of waiting against offensively aggressive fighters, and he uses it against them. The typical counter-punching style has kind of that, the gloves at a position to where, he could slap down punches and counter. Come over the top with the straight right, or the short, excuse me, not the short right, but the straight with the, excuse me, I said straight right, with the straight right, or the short straight right hand. I got a little tongue tied there, but this is, like I said, very hard to analyze with counter punches are very tricky fighters, because you don't know what they're gonna come out and do. You don't know if they're gonna come out and they're gonna be aggressive, or if they're gonna come out and or just come out and wait. Mccallum's is not the type of fighter that waits. If he sees an opportunity, and he sees an opening, he's gonna go for it. Bernard Hopkins looks for openings. You know, he waits and he looks for openings and he times very well. Times over the top. Whether it be over the top or the hook to the body, Bernard Hopkins is, you know, he's going to look for his big shots as well. So what you have is you have a fighter coming forward. It's going to be bobbing and weaving. It's going to be very elusive. And a fighter that more than likely will be on his toes, move around, and look for a big opening, and capitalize on the other fighter's mistake. So really, it's hard to analyze, you know, especially with the styles involved. Um, but overall, when I think of this fight, it has draw written all over it. Just because of the styles, of course, as I keep alluding to, just because of the styles, it has draw written all over it. Mike Mccallum come forward, you know, he's going to be aggressive. Bernard Hopkins uses your aggression against you. So it sounds like it's going to be a lot of close rounds, a lot of swing rounds, to where you don't really know who the winner of the fight would be. And I'm not the type of person that always, you know, says older generation beats newer generation at everything. But um, me, I'm just gonna say draw for this fight because, like I said, the styles makes it very deceiving. Um, so anyway, guys, that was the distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.